The vibrant pulse of Liberty Street in Philadelphia was a familiar, restless symphony. The air was thick with the growl of braking buses, the impatient honks of yellow cabs, and the hurried rhythm of thousands of pedestrians, each moving to their own silent drum. Amidst this urban current, a figure stood out, not for opulence or flash, but for a stark, deliberate simplicity. Agent Director Evelyn Reed, the newly appointed, formidable head of the Central Investigative Bureau, CIB, a powerful agency similar to the FBI, had shed her usual uniform of power. She was clad in simple, unassuming workout gear, black leggings, a light gray athletic jacket, and running shoes. Her dark, natural hair was pulled back into a severe, practical bun. Her face, a study in composure, betrayed nothing but a deep, focused concentration. Today was a rare, stolen moment of incognito freedom. She craved the raw, unfiltered atmosphere of the streets, an experience denied to her by the perpetual motorcade of black SUVs and the looming presence of her personal security detail. To the hurried passers-by, she was simply another woman, an anonymity that was a profound luxury. Yet, she was acutely aware that this freedom came wrapped in a layer of unprecedented risk. She paused near a small, brick-faced coffee shop on the corner of Fifth and Liberty, reaching for her phone to check a cryptic, time-sensitive message. That simple, solitary gesture became the fatal starting point. Two uniformed police officers, standing a short distance away, noticed her. Their eyes, sharp with trained suspicion, locked onto her and exchanged a brief, nonverbal communication. Their gaze lingered on her dark skin, her practical attire, and the way she held herself, too poised, perhaps, for a simple jogger. An immediate shift occurred in their demeanor, suspicion hardening into a readiness for action. They moved toward her with a sudden, purposeful stride. Evelyn felt it, a primal, instinctual prickle, the way a hunted animal senses the predator's approach. In the next second, their imposing shadows fell over her. She hadn't even managed to unlock her phone screen when the first sharp, loud demand tore the air. It was not a request, not even a warning. It was a prejudged accusation delivered with chilling authority. Her day, intended as a brief, status-free respite, instantly twisted into a terrifying snare. The officers closed in so aggressively that pedestrians began to turn their heads. One of them, a bulky man with a hard face, barked an order, hands behind your back. Now! His voice was thick with entitlement and irritation, as if he were dealing not with a citizen, but with a confirmed criminal caught in the act. Evelyn turned slowly, attempting to keep her voice level and calm. What seems to be the problem, officers? Her quiet question was immediately swallowed by their escalating shouts. Silence. You resist. The first officer grabbed her wrist with brutal force, twisting her arm sharply behind her back. She instinctively flinched from the unexpected pain, a reflex, not an act of resistance. But that was all the second officer needed. She's resisting. Hold her, he yelled. In the next instant, his heavy, merciless hand slammed into her shoulder, shoving her against the cold, abrasive brick wall of the coffee shop. A muscular forearm pressed hard across her neck. The air instantly became a precious, vanishing commodity. She inhaled a sharp, rattling gasp. Her eyes narrowed in pain, but there was no panic, only a cold, terrifying clarity. They believed they could do this to her, because in their minds, she was just an anonymous, suspicious, and disposable woman who dared to question their authority. Movement erupted on the sidewalk. People stopped. Some covered their mouths in disbelief. Others pulled out their phones, their screens glaring as they began to record. Outraged murmurs rippled through the gathering crowd. Why the force? She hasn't done anything. But the officers acted as if deaf, their actions mechanical, a well-rehearsed script of domination. The more Evelyn struggled to turn her head and draw breath, the harder the pressure on her neck became. Her voice, ragged and strained, fought to break through their oppressive weight. I'm not resisting. The words evaporated in their renewed shouts. Stop moving. You are resisting arrest. To the bystanders, this was not a legitimate stop. It was a public spectacle of humiliation. Every shallow breath, she took a desperate fight for survival. The throbbing pain in her temples intensified. She knew any sudden move would give them a pretext to further escalate the violence. Yet, remaining utterly passive felt like surrendering her dignity to their cruelty that a fierce resolve wrestled with her survival instinct. Slowly, deliberately, she raised one hand, a universal sign of surrender, indicating her jacket pocket. She just needed to access the single, identifying item she carried. The officer crushing her windpipe misinterpreted her action, roaring, "She's reaching for a weapon." The crowd gasped. Several voices screamed, "No, she's trying to breathe." The police were oblivious. The second officer grabbed her elbow and wrenched her arm down, a searing pain shooting through her shoulder. Her vision blurred, the world threatening to tilt, but the iron will in her eyes held steady. In a strained, almost inaudible whisper, she forced the words out, "My credentials," in the jacket pocket. A momentary, heavy stillness descended. One officer darted a quick look at her jacket, then at the growing, increasingly vocal mob. A flicker of doubt crossed his face, but his partner, adrenaline overriding caution, continued to press down, shouting over the crowd, and his victim, IT, took another desperate cry from the onlookers. "Check her pocket! Check her!" For the dominant officer to grudgingly shove his hand into her pocket. He pulled out a small, exquisite leather card case. Everyone froze. The crowd leaned in, breathless, in the officer's hand. A flash of gold and the unmistakable gleam of a seal caught the harsh midday light. It was a symbol of governmental power that could not be mistaken. Liberty Street fell into an uncanny silence, a tension that promised a seismic shift. The officer holding the case went rigid. His fingers trembled as his gaze dropped to the sharp, gold-embossed lettering. "Director, Central Investigative Bureau." For a few eternal seconds, he couldn't speak. The crowd was no longer just watching. They were documenting every paralyzed second. Dozens of phone cameras were recording the sight of two officers suffocating a woman who was, in fact, the most powerful law enforcement figure in the nation. The forearm pinning her neck recoiled instantly, as if scalded. Evelyn gasped, a deep, racking cough escaping her lips, but she immediately straightened. Her posture, even after the brutal violation, was commanding, regal. She looked up at them, and the cold force of her gaze drained the color from their faces more effectively than the sight of her badge had. "You just assaulted the director of the CIB," she stated, her voice hoarse but unwavering. The crowd erupted in a roar. Cries of shame, and "Arrest them," thundered. Evelyn did not need to raise her voice. Every measured syllable she spoke landed like a hammer blow of justice. The officers stammered out pathetic excuses. "We didn't know. You didn't show your ID right away." Their words were drowned out by the noise and their own palpable fear. She silently retrieved the credential from the trembling hand and tucked it back in her pocket. Then, she took a deliberate step toward them. "Your names are already recorded. By tomorrow, they will be known across this country. Your careers are over, but that is only the start." Her gaze swept over both men, chilling them to the bone. Anyone who believes this uniform is a tool for humiliation and violence must know accountability is absolute. Her voice was not a threat. It was the pronouncement of law itself. The crowd cheered, applauding and shouting their approval. The officers stumbled back, realizing they had just broadcast their downfall to the world. Evelyn Reed drew a deep, full breath, the first true breath she had taken in minutes. She turned her back on the chaos she had exposed and walked away, her head held high. Cameras tracked her every step, but in the hearts of the people, one truth resonated. Justice today spoke louder than the choking grip of unchecked power. You like the added details, or would you prefer to see a different twist in the story?